Although I'm not 100% sure if a yes was the appropriate way to start today's episode. It is Hump Day edition of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Taking you for the next hour or so, talking a lot of Miami Dolphins, Miami Hurricanes. Just brace yourself because there's not a whole lot of good for the Dolphins or the Canes. But we will also talk some NBA, some Miami Heat, and about maybe the biggest sports story of the day outside of my South Florida bubble, and that is Ben Simmons demanding a trade and holding out with the Philadelphia 76ers. Ricky J. Mark is going to join us at around 12:40 to talk some Miami Heat, some NBA. We'll talk about Simmons with him. At 12:15, we'll be joined by King Jock himself. Jakari Givens is going to talk some Miami Dolphins and some Miami Hurricanes with us. So we have had now, within the last half hour, breaking news on the Miami Dolphins, breaking news on Tua Tagovailoa's status. Let me get into that in a second. Before we get into that, I want to remind you guys that the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill is the official sports bar of Donno Daily. You know I love that fresh seafood, the oysters and Maine lobster. The buffalo shrimp is my favorite appetizer. The sushi is to die for, and you can build your own poke bowl. They have 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. That never ends at the Quarterdeck. During football season, Saturdays, college football, Sundays, the NFL, you can get the 5 for $15 ice-cold buckets of the Heineken family of beers and High Noon Hard Seltzer, or mix and match them to your heart's content. 5 for $15 ice-cold buckets all football season long at the Quarterdeck. So watch all the games out there. They have TVs covering every wall. All the games are on. And make sure you watch every UFC pay-per-view fight at the Quarterdeck, because they have them all for zero cover charge, like UFC 266 this weekend. I'm going to be there watching my guy Nick Diaz make his return after 6 years away. It's going to be so good. If you want to peep their menu or find the location nearest to you before you go, visit quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. We have an official sports book here on Donno Daily. It is BetUS. I talked about yesterday my gambling problem, and that I'm not betting enough. That's my problem. I've got 4 bets today on European soccer, mostly in the Serie A. Of course, Thursday Night Football, I'm going to be placing wagers on. Dolphins and Canes this weekend, I will be wagering on those games. I'm having so much fun at BetUS.com. I hope you guys join me. Bet along with us all throughout football season. We have a hookup. If you want to sign up, if you're too busy FOMOing and you want to get in and have fun betting with us all football season long, go to BetUS.com and sign up with our code, because Donno Daily has a deal for you. If you sign up with our code 5RSN125, type that in when you're making your deposit. There's a little spot to put a promo code. 5RSN125 will get you a 125% sign-up bonus. So if you deposit $100 with your credit card, they're going to give you an extra 125 to play with on top of your $100 deposit. Or if you deposit with crypto, you get a 200% sign-up bonus. So $200 on top of your 100 deposit. It's such a good thing, my friends. BetUS.com. You can bet sports, casino, horses, pop culture, and more at BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS. Hello to everyone in the chat already. I see Johnny Be Good is in. How is Jesse Davis still in the state of Florida? And by the way, I've seen a couple of projections on what the mix-up on the Dolphins offensive line might look at, the reshuffle, and Jesse Davis appears in some of those possibilities. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But yeah, I want to get to the breaking news from around 11:30 today. Brian Flores was addressing the media at Miami Dolphins practice, and he announced that the diagnosis for Tua Tagovailoa's ribs is worse than we initially thought. Coming out of the injury 9 snaps in, the rib injury he suffered against Buffalo didn't return. Jacoby Brissett finished out the game. We were led to believe from the initial medical test, because the initial x-rays and MRIs came back negative. So we thought it was just bruising, severely bruised ribs, questionable for this Sunday. Brian Flores revealed today they've done further testing. I don't know how the initial tests missed this. So I guess some of these medical tests, you can trust them about as far as you can throw them. What I would imagine that happened was, after the initial test came up negative, he was still in a ton of pain. And so doctors were like, this doesn't seem right. We got to do more testing. So the initial testing has shown And you could pull up, Sean, that tweet from Adam Huntington Beasley of Pro Football Network. So further tests revealed Tua Tagovailoa has fractured ribs. And note, plural, multiple ribs are fractured. He will not play Sunday. Brian Flores announced on Wednesday. That is today. And I encourage you guys to check out. If you follow me on Twitter, you may already follow this other person on Twitter, but I retweeted from the Pro Football Doc, who does a really good job kind of, and he doesn't necessarily examine these players personally. He's not Tua's doctor, but, he understands what these injuries are about and what the timetables are, because unlike me, he's an actual doctor. So I retweeted a little video that the Pro Football Doc put out there and basically saying, obviously we know this Tua's not going to play Sunday, could very likely miss the following game, could very well miss the game after that. They might end up, and this is coming from a guy who's not treated Tua, so take it with a grain of salt, but just kind of guesstimating based on multiple fractured ribs that they don't really start healing until 2 weeks after the injury, that he is very likely to miss 2 games and could possibly miss a third. So they could end up putting him on that short-term IR with the designation to return, where you have to miss at least 3 weeks. So that's not been announced yet. We don't know if we're going to have to go down that road, but it's very possible Tua Tagovailoa is now going to have to miss multiple games, not just the one game coming up this Sunday against the Raiders. And it's funny how real the Tua hate is, because on some of these tweets about Tua's injury, I'm looking at responses from Dolphins fans, and they're like, oh, this is great. We're so much better off with Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett played the vast majority of that game this past Sunday, couldn't put up a single point. We're so much better off with Jacoby Brissett. Oh, this fan base is so toxic. I want to say good afternoon to Sean Stanley. And Sean told me something that makes me sad before the show, because, we love it when he comes to you live in the closet. You can see those shirts there. The price tags are still on many of them. And he's got the Don Shula football, a great, great piece of memorabilia that is behind his head, a Don Shula signed football. And you were telling me, Sean, this may be one of the last shows where you're coming from that backdrop. Please tell me it ain't so.
No, it is so. It is so. We are moving out of the closet, and I am getting an actual setup. I got a desk on the way, a better desk on the way. I'm growing, so with that, I've got to grow some space.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, and when you say you're growing, you are physically, like, you're not like growing as a broadcaster. You're physically growing, is what.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm physically growing because I'm not going to the gym, which is why those still have the tags on them there, and the membership is still being paid, but I'm just not going.
Yeah, I
just
hear
stopped
you.
in the other day, though. They got a great Smoothie King inside there, and I took out the smoothie and left.
That's fantastic. All right. So that's Sean's gym routine. Like, he's hoping, how many calories can I burn just from swallowing the smoothie? Like, can I burn a few calories? Hopefully I'm getting like and smoothies, I think, have a lot more calories than people think. Like, people think, oh, smoothie, it's healthy. There's a lot of sugar and fruit. So Sean's workout will be putting the straw in the smoothie cup. It's going to be that workout.
And the curls bringing it to drink it. That's it.
By the way, this is funny. Michael Toff writes, because Sean will no longer be broadcasting from the closet, so he's coming out of the closet.
Right. Coming out.
Bravo. Oh, bravo. Very, very well said. As you can see, the title of this episode is, Did We Overrate the Miami Dolphins? And one of the things I love about one of our chronic viewers, and we have a few chronics in here today, like I see our guy Marco MB Beggs is in. He says the season is about to get biblical. And another one of our chronics, David, writes, in response to the title of this episode, Did we overrate the Miami Dolphins? He said, who's we here? I have always kept my guard up, he says, about this team. Being a fan with nothing to show for it for 38 years does that. Listen, at least you don't have any Super Bowls to show for it in 38 years. But at least at 38 years old, you're old enough to remember a big chunk of Dan Marino and Don Shula together and winning a lot of games, just not winning championships. So that's a lot better than, say, a Dolphin fan who is under the age of 25. You're under the age of 25. You haven't really seen anything. I mean, if you're under 25, they did get one playoff victory, but you were probably too young to remember it because that was in 2000. or the 2001, but the 2000 season when they beat the Colts. That was the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. You were like 4 years old if you're 25 or younger. You probably don't even remember that. So it's been a tough life as a Miami Dolphins fan. But when I ask, and hello, Jeff Fox. I love this dude. Jeff Fox, former sports brother, Fox in the Box. He says, see me this week, Raiders. Fox is a big Las Vegas Raiders fan. I'm really nervous about that game.
It's going to get ugly.
It could get – the Raiders are off to an unbelievable start. I mean, they've beaten really good teams already. They've beaten the Ravens and the Steelers.
Are better than the two teams that we just played.
Inside, and
maybe not so much, but the outside guys are very good.
And the Dolphins have turnstiles as offensive linemen. So this is, thankfully Jacoby Brissett is a big dude. He can take some hits, but
let's hope.
And then for the Dolphins defensively, you're going up against Darren Waller again. The Raiders lost to the Dolphins last year thanks to the Fitz miracle, but Darren Waller is still making catches from like 9 months later. He had 122 yards receiving, I think, in that game. He had quite a day. But no, the reason why I titled this episode, did we overrate the Miami Dolphins? And I know I'm not speaking for David, who says, no, who are you calling we? Who are you calling those people? So I know I'm not speaking for David, but I'm speaking for me, and I'm speaking for a lot of you. And I encourage, by the way, I hope you guys are all watching on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Ethan Skolnick's Starting 9, because he does a live show Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 9 a.m. And I don't want you to think I'm playing, because I know that a lot of the stuff I'm talking about on this episode are things that Ethan touched on this morning. But it's unavoidable, bros. Like talking about some of these things with the way the Dolphins are being built and the draft picks that Chris Grier has made, it's really unavoidable to touch on this stuff. It was a big topic for Ethan this morning. I hope you guys don't think I'm stealing content, but they're really, I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room, Sean. Like I cannot ignore the biggest topic of the day when it comes to the offensive line and the job Chris Grier has done drafting. It was really unavoidable, right?
Well, especially when you got all five of them are first round or third round picks. I think Dieter was a third round, but everybody else up there is a first round pick, and you're not going to hit on five. How many guys and GMs have hit on 5 first round picks?
You hope to hit on 3 out of 5. Yeah, like you hope to hit it, but not like 1 or 0 out of 5.
Even with that, your offensive line is doomed. You can't have 2 failures up there on your offensive line, and right now it looks like we have at least 3, maybe 4.
Put this tweet on the screen from our colleague Kai Chen Chisholm, who I thought did he did an excellent job putting this out there on Front Street with this graphic, and credit to the photo came from the Sun Sentinel, but credit to Kai for putting this together. So these are the draft picks that Chris Grier has made since he was the guy calling the shots in the draft room, since he's been the true GM. 2016 was his first year. Laramie Tunsil, really good pick, but traded him. And now you have to start questioning, would this team be much better off with Laramie Tunsil still on the team rather than trading him for a bunch of first-round picks and second-round picks that haven't panned out? So he drafted Laramie Tunsil, traded him. Xavier Howard, great pick. That was a hit. Congratulations. That you got yourself a good one there. Kenyon Drake, traded/miss. Leonte Carew, I forgot about him. That's a miss.
Can I ask something real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Laramie Tunsil, that equated into us getting Tua, right? Because that was the Texans' 5th pick, right? So basically we would not have Tua if we did not make that Tunsil pick, if you look at it that way.
Right. But still, like, I don't, and listen, I like Tua, but I can't say right now whether that was a hit or a miss. Some people are calling it a miss already. I'm going to say the jury's still out. We'll get to that. Jakeem Grant, yeah, you can call it a hit. Special teams hit. Receiver, maybe not so much. Jordan Lucas, that was a miss. Brandon Doughty, huge miss. Although I guess he was a serviceable practice squad guy for a hot second. Thomas Duarte, miss. 2017 draft. Charles Harris, all caps, miss. Fucking bust, that guy, Charles Harris. Raekwon McMillan, traded. Cordray Tankersley, miss. Isaac Asiata, he's now a police officer. That was a miss. It's probably, I'm glad he's a police officer. He's probably really good at that job. But no, that was a miss as a draft pick. Devon Godshaw now plays for New England. Vincent Taylor, okay. Isaiah Ford, I thought that was a good way to put that. 2018 draft. Minkah Fitzpatrick, hit for the Steelers, not for the Dolphins, and you're misusing those draft picks. Mike Gesicki, hit. Jerome Baker, hit. Durham Smythe, okay. Kalen Ballage, he writes, LOL. Cornell Armstrong, miss. I forgot about him. Quentin Poling, miss. Jason Sanders, hit. 2019 draft, Christian Wilkins, hit. Michael Dieter, I may call Dieter a hit, actually. Andrew Van Ginkel, hit. Isaiah Prince, miss. Chandler Cox, Myles Gaskin, good. 2020 draft, Tua Tagovailoa, jury's still out. I agree with that. Some people calling him a miss already. I would agree jury is still out there. Austin Jackson, he says TBD. Guys, that's starting to look like a miss for me. I mean, I made excuses for Austin Jackson last year. He looks worse this year, okay? Noah Igbenogany, he says TBD. I say miss. He's not even active. Robert Hunt, he says TBD. I'm going to say maybe a hit there. Raekwon Davis, hit. Brandon Jones, good. Solomon Kindley, TBD. Jason Strobridge, miss. Curtis Weaver, miss. Blake Ferguson for the brand, he says. Malcolm Perry, miss. 2021, I guess these are mostly TBDs. Jalen Waddle, he says TBD. I'm actually pretty bullish on Waddle. Jalen Phillips, TBD. Javon Holland, he says hit. I think that's going to be a hit. Liam Eichenberg, he says TBD. I think that one could be a hit as well, but very early. Hunter Long, TBD. Larnell Coleman, TBD. Jared Dokes, TBD. So I thought that was a really good chart there from Kai Chen Chisholm, and I want to get into more detail on this with our next guest because, unfortunately, again, and Kai was wondering in his tweet there, with everything that's been happening with the O-line, there's been criticism for Chris Grier. What are your thoughts on his drafting since 2016? And if the season goes south, could he be a scapegoat? Absolutely, I think he could be a scapegoat. Let me bring on our first guest of the day. Love this man.
I think, there's Alex. Alex is back with us. Alex, you're back with us. I don't hear you, Alex. This is good technology. No, Alex, you're not on, and it happened right when we are about to go out to the guest here, which will be Jakari, and now it looks like Alex has frozen. So what I'm going to do is, and now Alex, are you back with us, Alex?
Hello.
You are back, Alex. Here you go. It's all yours, sir.
I think it might have been kind of a shaky USB connection because I yanked the thing out, plugged it back in. So let me ask you, Sean, hold on. Before we bring in Jakari, How much did you miss? Like, did you see me just going like?
You went to say Jakari, and it looked like that one commercial when you're like, when you looked at the baby wrong. That's how your face looked when you went to introduce Jakari. You might be a little upset right now when he comes.
But I wasn't off for that long, was I? Like, it wasn't
long enough for me to figure out that you were off and then try to buy you some time. Not a lot, maybe 30 seconds.
Oof. All right, fair enough. All right, so I got for this dude because I'm a huge fan of our next guest, Jakari Givens, aka King Jock 24 from 5 Reasons Sports Network, and of course from the Six Ring. Jakari, how you doing, sir? Oh, and he's muted.
I'm doing good. What about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Aside from technology kicking my ass, I'm doing all right. First, Jakari, let me ask you, what do to tweak this offensive line? Like, before we talk about potential signings or trades, because there could be a couple of options out there, but before we get to that, when it comes to the personnel the Dolphins have available and talking about moving some pieces around, putting Liam Eichenberg back in the starting lineup, maybe moving Austin Jackson inside is something that is reportedly being discussed. Like, is there any way to tweak this offensive line, or are we just kind of screwed with these personnel?
I think Eichenberg is a positive, so I think you just have to start the rookie at left tackle. And then move Austin Jackson around. Austin Jackson is not bad. It's just the Dolphins didn't expect him to regress. He didn't play that bad last year. His playing strength is a problem. I think that's his biggest issue. But other than that, I just think they need to do that and just, let this, it's like it's like when you have a bad date, right? A bad day. It's like the world come crashing down, and Miami got embarrassed 35-0. So it's like, oh, this is this, and that. I expect the offensive line to respond just like they did last year when they played Denver. They had a pretty bad game. They came back the next 2 weeks and played an excellent game. So I just think that they need to do that, and I think Eichenberg has to be a starter, and I think Dieter has played well, but you just have to continue to grow with the group.
So when we talk about, potential moves that can be made, like before the trade deadline, which is a little under a month and a half away, November 2nd. So the Detroit Lions have a situation that could make Taylor Decker at left tackle a guy who could be traded because Sewell is now moved out to left tackle. He's doing really well, which shouldn't surprise too many people given how good he was in college. And even like Dan Campbell is kind of being coy with Taylor Decker's future. If there's an opportunity to grab this guy in a trade, because he was borderline elite last year, I thought, Decker. So, I mean, how much would you give up for this guy, and how much better could he make the Dolphins O-line?
I would give him about a second or third round pick. Decker is pretty solid, man. Like he's gonna give up some stuff sometimes, but Decker's a pretty solid left tackle. I think he helps you right away, but it just depends on what you want to do with Eichenberg. Do you want the rookie to go to right guard, wherever you want to plug him out? Because to be honest, you're setting the kid up for failure if you keep switching him around and not letting him get comfortable in the position. So getting Decker is a good thing, and Schwartz is another thing, but continuity is the biggest thing, right? And finding the right pieces. But to keep moving Eichenberg around to left, right, let him get in a position to get comfortable so he can be the player he's showing he can be. So I think that the Dolphins should move for Decker, though, because the left tackle position is an issue. And then you just go ahead and put Eichenberg at whatever position you're going to put him at. I think Austin Jackson can't play guard because of his playing strength. He may be better at right tackle, but his playing strength is pretty bad, and it's on film. So I think that's the problem, and I think he's going to respond this week with a better game against the Raiders, and I expect him to, continue to grow. I just think he's having a bad first 2 weeks of the season. He didn't do bad against Eichenberg didn't do bad against Judon, but like I said, I think Austin Jackson, he's felt the pressure, and I think he's going to get better this week.
We're joined here by Jakari Givens from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. The big breaking news we got about an hour ago from Brian Flores is that the Tua rib injury, more severe than the initial test showed. He does have multiple rib fractures. He's definitely going to be out this week. We've seen some quarterbacks tough it out and play through broken ribs before. I mean, Drew Brees did it, I think, as recently as last year. But I don't think any two rib injuries are created equally. He's definitely going to be out this week, too. I was watching a great video that Pro Football Doc put out there. Now, he hasn't treated Tua personally. He's just kind of estimating based on his knowledge of these injuries that Tua could very well be out 2 weeks, and it could even linger for 3 weeks. So he could end up on the short-term IR. And so, okay, what are you expecting, Jakari, if it's 2 or 3 weeks with Jacoby Brissett leading this offense? How good or bad do you feel about these next handful of games?
So at that point, it just has to become a defensive team. You know what? We're hanging our hats on anyway. So the Dolphins will just be playing grounded out football, not relying much on the quarterbacks to do, and just playing, playing a game manager style of football, so the guys can, do what they do. But like I said, I've been on record all week. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game this week with Jacoby Brissett playing anyway. I think they're going to win. And I think if Tua's out for 2 weeks, you just have to hold the ship down, if you get what I'm saying. So he needs to at least go 1-1 or 2-1, whatever it may be, so the Dolphins can keep their playoff hopes alive. And to think Brissett was a starter in this league before. He did not play bad. That's the reason why he got a contract from the Colts. He did not play bad when he was there, and I just felt like people are kind of just writing out. He had a bad game. The whole team had a bad game against the Bills. So I'm not counting that game. We got beat 35-0, so it was no positives in that game, right? So I think Fans have to calm down. There's an overreaction stating that this guy can't win, and he totally can win. He's going to win against the Raiders this Sunday, and we're going to be like, well, damn, I didn't know this kid can do that. No, he can win a game or two. That's what a backup quarterback is. We're not telling him to go and win 5 games. We're telling him to win. A backup quarterback, you just want him in good enough so he can win you 2 or 3 games, in that stretch. Just like Matt Moore did. He won us 2 or 3 games in that stretch, and that's how we came out and got to the playoffs that year.
Jakari, the Dolphins have not had a great time running the football so far this year, and of course that was a really tough matchup running the football against the Bills. But could there be more of an opening against the Raiders? The Raiders have dynamic pass rushers, but as far as stopping the run, now I know the Dolphins' offensive line problematic, especially in protection, but they have a lot of size compared to the Raiders' defensive front, so they should be able to get some push. Do you think the Dolphins might emphasize the run a lot more this week, especially with Jacoby Brissett instead of Tua, and can they find more success on the ground?
Yes, and I like I said, I expect the Dolphins to respond after a 35-0 beating. Nothing has told me over the past couple of years with Flores that they're not going to respond. They have responded every single time they face fire. You look at how the team has come out. Now, what they can do is run the ball. You're going to see a heavy run game, Gaskins. You're going to see Jalen Waddle touch the football. You're going to see all these gadget guys, Wilson. It's going to be more of just a creative running game. But I think they have a prolific chance to run the football against the Raiders. I don't see nothing that the Raiders will do to stop that. And that's why I think Miami will get the W this week.
And I need go ahead.
One more thing on the Jalen Waddle conversation, and I see people was talking about Waddle and how they should have got more and Slater. Listen, the Dolphins drafted this year based off the non-regression of a player. They did not expect this kid to get worse. They expected this kid to get better. That's why they went with what they went. I will take Waddle over Penei Sewell any day of the week based off the film that you were receiving from this team, from Austin Jackson last year. He did not look this bad. He looked very bad right now, but he did not look like this last season. So a lot of this talk, it's easy to say that now because of the first 2 games. Sewell had a great game against Nick Bosa, and he just had another solid game. But we said this, though. We knew Penei Sewell was good. Slater had a good game against Chase Young, but he did that in college. He played this guy already. So I'm not really for the whole thing, you shouldn't have did that. The jury's still out on Jalen Waddle. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. Well, what are you expecting to see if the quarterback has no time to throw the football? You can't. We're not going to see the explosive plays. Tua is dropping back literally with 2 seconds to throw the ball. So all this, the jury is still out. Waddle brings what we have seen. He's open every play. He's getting the ball in space. He's creating big games. So all this, I haven't seen the long speed yet. This is not college football where you get that many explosive plays. You don't have that many explosives in the NFL because the players' IQ are higher, so the lack of bust won't happen, right? So all that, I'm kind of like I'm disgusted by it because it's like, what is this kid? What has he done wrong? I haven't seen the long speed. Well,
outside of muffing a punt, but when it comes to like his performance on offense, I actually thought he had a pretty good game this past week, and actually I like the way that they're using him, moving him around the field, trying to create mismatches. So yeah, like you said, this is not Alabama where you're going to get 5 or 6 big plays, X plays per game. You can't expect that in the NFL. I actually have zero issue whatsoever with Jalen Waddle or the pick. I think he's doing fine. So you've given me a lot of positivity on the Dolphins, and I appreciate that because I think we all needed it. Like, I think we all needed some of that. And football. I mean, Jakari played at Kansas. Like, he knows this game. That's why we lean on his opinions. Can you give me any positivity whatsoever on the Miami Hurricanes, aside from the fact that they are going to win this weekend?
So I think that with the Hurricanes, more so of anything, it's been the expectations haven't been met what you expected, right? So we all expected Miami to get throttled against Alabama. We expected that, right? Then you expected them to win the next 2 games against Michigan State and when they play Appalachian State. They beat Appalachian State, but Michigan State was better than what we expected. That's an 8 or 9 win team based off what I seen on their film. That's an 8 or 9 win team, and the Hurricanes were not ready for the physicality. And De'Aaron King has underperformed. Let's just call it what it is, right? He hasn't been as good as you expected. We expected De'Aaron King to come, and I think that's where the expectations came from, right? Rick Lashley's play calling has went down, right? We're not using King as a weapon. We're using him as a quarterback, and that's not what his game is. Now, if this kid has come to you and say, hey, I want to do this as far as him getting drafted, then I don't understand it, because he's not that type of player. That's not what he's going to do. Like, he's not that guy. He's not going to get drafted in the NFL. Right. He's not an NFL quarterback. So use him on how we got him, right? We got him based off because he can what? Run with the football. He was a dual threat quarterback, and you're not using your weapons. We're not using the Will Mallory's of the world correctly. Even though he had a drop touchdown pass, we're not using him correctly. He's not getting the ball in the middle of the field. We're not using Keontre Smith right? So I think that they have to go ahead and look in the mirror, because this is a mirror check, right? Mm-hmm. And say, hey, it's not on De'Aaron King. It's on the coaches. The coaches have called bad games all year, right? And I think now I see reports, about, they need to go to the younger players. Well, right now, I'm telling you right now, from what I seen on Saturday, James Williams is not ready to play football, and people are like, oh, he is. Yeah. No, he's not.
He's not.
Right? You see him reading his keys. I seen him play, and I don't think he got in after this play ever again. It was a run game play. The guy went to I think he jumped down in the A gap, and I instantly look at the TV. I was like, that wasn't the right read for him. So I think that he's just I know people want to see him play, but the kid is not ready, and that's the same thing with Leonard Taylor. Leonard Taylor's not playing because he's not ready, and people don't understand. Like, it's different. And in high school football, Leonard Taylor was the best athlete every week. So he's not going to play no good offensive lineman in the state of and Dade County, because it's not that many, right? How many times you see an offensive lineman? So he dominated, right? Is this saying he a bad player? No, he's a great player, but the kid's not ready. And people want to see this kid. He's going to get out there. He's going to struggle. And then the jury's going to be out on him. Well, oh, man, I don't know, nah, man, he's not ready. So I think Miami's doing the right thing. I do think Bubba Bolden needs to play way better. He's better than what he's been doing. And then I do think that Gervin Hall needs to be on the bench because some of the things he was doing, I don't understand. But Kitchen should play. I figure that I think James Williams is a good, I think he'll be all right. But Bubba Bolden and Williams can't play together because they're essentially the same type of safety. So I don't really see like what we can do. I think defensively you just have to get your mind back right and get back to the physicality of the game. Like, you had 66 missed tackles in 3 games. 66, right? And another thing, like I've been telling people now, Manny Diaz is on the hot seat for me, because
that was going to be my next question. Yeah,
there's no way this guy comes to the press game conference and say, "Oh, we're looking at De'Aaron King too much." What? Like I would as a player, I would have challenged him on that. What do you mean? Like I'm looking at him too much? Like no, this is on you. Your team has not been ready to play in the big games. That's on you, and that's a calling card of you, though. That's not on anybody else. That's on you as a player. I mean, as a coach. Every time we played in the big game, what has happened? Miami's got blown out every time. Yep. So who was that on? De'Aaron King wasn't there for all those losses you were, right? Your team's not ready to play. It's a common theme. They're not ready to play. They haven't been ready to play. And when they're not ready to play, what do you expect, right? You're going to lose, right? These teams are not coming. Miami, like a lot of Miami problem is that they're trying to live off the hype of, it's not, what are we scared of? We're not scared of you as a program. And that's the same thing with Texas. This is why Texas struggles with their stuff too, because they play down to their competition because they expect people to get off the bus and say, oh, we're playing X, Y, and Z. Like we're supposed to be scared. No, we're not afraid of this team, man. We can beat this team. So I think Manny Diaz has to do a better job as a coach, having his team ready to play. And like I said, thought Manny wasn't a guy. I've been very critical of him. I think they need to get rid of him because I don't think he's ready to be a head coach. Great coordinator, not head coach.
Would have been a good Temple coach, perhaps, and not ready for the spotlight at Miami. Jakari, I can't thank you enough, my friend, always for the time. Make sure you follow this man on Twitter, KingJock24. And you guys have a 6-ring episode soon, right? Are you doing one tonight?
Tonight at 8, yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, enjoy that. Have a great show. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Awesome stuff there. Yeah, and I love how we can wax poetic. And yeah, Ricky J. Mark is going to join us here in a moment. But I love the fact that we can wax poetic on the Dolphins and on the Canes with King Jock, Jakari Givens. So, something when he Sean, I hope I'm not frozen again. Am I?
No, you're not frozen. I got a thing. Left guard Jalen Rivers. He's out for the season with a right knee injury.
Wow. Who else?
Today. So the second year
Jesus.
Will miss. Looks like Navon Donaldson went in for him for the game, and looks like that's probably who'll be there for the remainder of the season now.
We're in trouble, man. We're in big trouble. And Barry Jackson wrote a piece, a report on the Canes yesterday that it seemed to surprise some people. Didn't surprise me whatsoever, man. I've been telling people this. Like anybody who thinks that, oh, bro, I know how to fix this. Let's fire Manny and let's go out and get Mario Cristobal, bro. Hold on. Cristobal making a lot of money at Oregon, doing really well there at a school with that Nike money coming out their asses. Huge commitment to their athletic program, and he's in their favor. Mm-hmm. I know Cristobal's a Miami alum, played football here, and maybe at some point it was his dream job to be the head coach of the University of Miami, but that's not a better job right now. Right? It's not a better job right now. And so, this Barry Jackson piece, it was sobering for some people. But listen, I've been telling you guys, I've been a University of Miami football fan. I'm 37 years old. I've been an active, avid football fan for like 32 out of those 37 years. I've been following this program, living and dying with this program for a very, very long time. People get this bloodlust. And again, I'm not saying Manny's doing a good job or deserves to keep his job. But for anyone who thinks that you can easily fix this by firing him and bringing in someone else, it hasn't worked. Like over the last 15 years, it's only gotten worse. So maybe it's too late for this. My dream would be that Manny can find a way to fix this himself or set it on the right track himself, because firing Larry Coker, which got everybody excited, that didn't fix it. Things got worse. Firing Randy Shannon didn't fix it. Things got worse. Al Golden and so on, firing these guys. Fans thought, we flew the banner planes. We did it, guys. I flew a plane with a banner asking them to fire Al Golden. They fired him. The U is back. Guess what? The U is not back. The U may never come back. Yeah. Not in my lifetime. I hope it does, because I love this program.
I thought was the one thing I read that I was like, wow, was when they said, when Frank took over, he said to Blake James, the athletic program is yours. You're in charge of football. Oh, I think that just says everything we need to know.
Yeah, and it's right. Like Julio Frank, he does not care about athletics. Like he doesn't know athletics. He doesn't know athletics. He knows about looking at germs under microscopes. Like that's what Julio Frank knows about germs. I was very complimentary of Julio Frank for one thing, and I will continue to be. I think that's a really good person to have as a university president during a pandemic, right? Because that's just so. Once COVID started, I'm thinking, thank God my alma mater has the former Minister of Health of Mexico as the president of that university, because that guy knows how to handle a pandemic, does not know how to handle an athletic program. And you're right, because G.A. Canes fan wrote in, it will not be fixed until this AD is fired. But like you said, Sean, that was one of the quotes in the Barry Jackson piece.
That means Blake James has got to fire himself, right? I mean,
right.
What's got to happen here? Blake James got to be like, I've had enough. I'm out.
Absolutely. And so, a board of trustee member told Barry Jackson, quote, when Julio Frank got here, he told Blake, you're on your own with sports. Now, and listen, his predecessor, when Donna Shalala was president, I think she certainly had some missteps with athletics, but
Yeah.
she did care.
Oh,
So
she wanted to win.
yeah.
That was probably her biggest mistake, is she wanted to win no matter what, and she had blinders on to how that was going to happen.
Right. Like she made some poor decisions, and like obviously she made some decisions on shoestring budgets and maybe could have committed more financially, but she did care. Whereas the president right now, he does not care about sports. And it also, to be quite frank, doesn't seem like he's doing that great of a job with the academics either. Even those, I think, were doing better under Shalala and under Tad Foote, who was president before Shalala.
That campus is looking magnificent. Right.
He's great at planting trees. He's planted some nice palm trees.
Planted some good trees and the concrete going up. Oh, so good.
The Rathskeller looks great. Like they knocked down like the 60-year-old, 70-year-old building that was there, and they built a new Rathskeller. Fantastic job he's doing there. Oh man, fantastic job there. All right, I want to bring on our next guest for this episode. We love talking basketball with this man. Ricky J. Mark joins us here on Donno Daily on 5 Reasons Sports. And Ricky, I got a lot of basketball stuff I want to get to with you, but are you a South Florida football fan, or are you in pain like I am this week?
Admittedly, I'm just now getting back into football in terms of NFL and college football. So the pain, I admit, isn't as pronounced as it is. What I do know is that I'm very much numb to it. I mean, the most memorable Dolphins memory outside from when Man Campbell coached the Dolphins to like a 41-0 halftime lead. I was in the stadium for that. Was when I think it was when Olindo Mari kicked a game-winning field goal in like 2002. I remember watching that. I think it was a Sunday night game, and they were talking about how the Dolphins were potential Super Bowl contenders. Ricky Williams was still there, but other than that, we've sucked pretty much since then. But it is what it is. I mean, hopefully, I see myself getting more into it, though I admit, I got to root for the Giants and the Rams on top of the Dolphins, but that's something else completely.
It's fair enough, man. Honestly, I wouldn't prescribe to my worst enemy being a fan of the Dolphins, right? You know what? I exaggerate a little bit because I was so optimistic before the season started. I don't want to make it sound like all hope was lost. That was a really ugly loss this past weekend, but no, I'm still a Dolphin fan for life, and I think that they could still right the ship. But Tua being out for a little bit does worry me a little bit. But I want to segue and talk some basketball with you, Ricky, because one of the biggest stories of the day, period, in the national sports landscape revolves around Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. So he has told them, Doc Rivers and the brass there, he wants to be traded. He wants out. In fact, he's not going to show up for training camp. He is holding out. He wants out. He just signed last year a max extension. I think he's got like $143 million left on that deal. So it's a really tough spot for the Sixers to be in. And that whole trust the process thing is now a complete dumpster fire there if we didn't think it was already. But where do you think this goes, Ricky? What do you think is the end game here? Is Ben Simmons going to be able to successfully force a trade?
I think this is one of the only situations in which the player will probably end up getting what he wants. However, probably not to the destination he wants. You see, the thing about signing a long-term deal is that you give up all your leverage. If there's no player option in the following summer, you got to go play. And if you don't like where you are, you're not going to be able to keep forcing your way out. Eventually, you'll start running afoul of league rules, and next thing you know, you'll start getting suspended without pay. And even though the unions will get involved, as they should, which is their job to represent and defend the players as much as possible, it's not going to bode well for your NBA career if a cloud of toxicity follows you everywhere you go. Now, with Ben Simmons, this isn't the first time in which we've heard rumblings of him trying to dictate his own destiny and his own future. Before he was even drafted, way back when, he was trying to force his way to the Lakers somehow.
That's right.
Saying that, I won't play for anybody else for the Lakers and all this other stuff. And I remember writing back then along the lines of, look, players try to strong-arm teams like this all the time. It doesn't really work as often people think it does. And when the time comes to go report and they start seeing those checks come in, they'll play. And that's what'll happen. So I think with the Sixers, I think you'll have a situation where He won't report. He won't show up because I think Clutch is very serious about that. He won't report to training camp, and he'll end up getting traded. I could see him going to either OKC. I've heard Sacramento too, but at this point, if you're the Sixers, I try to trade him to OKC with their million. I think it's like, I'm pretty sure they have about 20,000 first rounders between now and 2030. So take that. Take as much value as you possibly can, rebuild the roster around Joel Embiid, and go put yourself in position to win a championship.
And now, you're right to say that he doesn't have much leverage as to picking his next team, but he may get what he wants in terms of being traded. And the report even says he is willing to play for literally any team other than Philadelphia. So can you sum it up? Why is he so unhappy there?
I think it's a combination of things. I think when you consider the fact that the Sixers have been, well, let's just come out and say it, poorly run. It's been very confusing in the last few years. Yes, we have the whole trust the process situation and everything, but you're talking about a franchise that pretty much took Markelle Fultz, broke his jumper, and remade it. And he went from being a solid shooter, a solid player in college, to someone who has like this weird hitch in his jump shot before he ended up getting traded to Orlando. It's just been a mess. I think organizational leadership is something that a lot of Heat fans, well, fans in general, take for granted, because not every team is run like the Heat, the Spurs, or even to a certain extent the Lakers. It's just not the case, and talent doesn't cure all ills. It doesn't solve all the problems all the time. Eventually, when there are problems, when there's trouble in paradise or there's palace intrigue, you run yourself into a situation where players like Ben Simmons, who just hasn't developed the way he should have, ends up in a situation where it just makes everybody lose in the long run. I won't say the Sixers aren't to blame as well, but it's a tough situation all around. But at the end of the day, the Sixers have the rights to Ben Simmons' labor in the NBA.
Now, maybe you either saw this or read some quotes from it, but I was watching Doc Rivers this morning being interviewed by Stephen A. Smith on First Take, and he definitely, he made a sales pitch to Ben Simmons. Like, he really wants to mend fences. He really wants to work things out. He even said, and I had to kind of chuckle at this, but this is part of the sales pitch, I'm sure, that he talking about the Sixers, that we can win a championship with Ben Simmons, which I don't know, it makes me laugh a little bit. But I'm sure it depends on what they can get in return. But could this end up being better? Getting multiple assets in return, could that end up being better for the Sixers in the long run?
I think it could, because keep in mind, you already have Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. Tobias Harris is not a main number one guy, but he's a solid third guy on any team. You just need a number two or a number one to mask some of what Tobias Harris doesn't bring to the table. What I will say about Doc Rivers is he's a player's coach, at least in theory. He's gonna do the PR work. One thing we need to understand about these franchises is that sometimes you have to take what they say in public on television in front of a camera with a grain of salt, because they say this, but internally there are other things going on. I don't claim to be an insider, but I'm sure phone calls are being made all around the league with regards to Ben Simmons. They're being made to certain teams that they know won't just go ahead and leak information. Doc Rivers is doing everything he can to salvage this situation, because look, he wants to coach a team that wins a championship. A lot of people give Doc Rivers a lot of credit for being a solid coach, which he is. But what we also need, a lot of people unfortunately don't want to mention, is that he hasn't won a championship since 2008. He's been to the finals once since then, and he's given up 3-1 leads, I think almost 5 times, if not more than that by now. He wants to salvage this situation, because it's not always a guarantee that when you trade a talent such as Ben Simmons, you can say whatever you want about his shot, but when you trade a talent like him, it's not a guarantee that you'll get equal or greater value in return. And that's just the situation we're in right now. But hey, what is it, a week from now? Until Heat training camp starts, so pretty soon. I think South Florida is going to be worried about some other things.
Absolutely, and how about this? So Tyler Hero received some votes from executives as a potential breakout star. I mean, you could even say like he broke out his rookie year and then took a little bit of a step back the second year, but a potential breakout star for for this coming season. Do you have high expectations for Tyler this year?
I would say my expectations are a little bit more measured, as I try to be when breaking stuff down on this network, for better or worse. I think he will be solid coming into the season. The hope is that fatherhood will mellow him out and cause him to mature a little bit. I don't have kids that I'm aware of, but but if I imagine that when my, the princes and princesses show up, it'll cause me to grow up even more as a man and as a husband and as an individual. I think Tyler Hero is going to be solid because, with Kyle Lowry and some of the other guys on this team, we're not going to be depending on him. And I think we've talked about this before. We're not going to be depending on him to become Gordon Hayward Part 2. As long as he plays within himself and does what the coaching staff asks of him and he puts in the work and he stays focused, the kid is obviously talented. He doesn't have all the best physical attributes that you would want out of a Tracy McGrady type, but hey, he's Tyler Hero. I think he'll be okay this season. He will benefit very much from the fact that the team has gotten much more talented. A solid example, and I've used this multiple times in the network, Lamar Odom, when he was with the Lakers, he was not good as a number two option next to Kobe. But once Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum rounded in the form, he eventually became a sixth man of the year candidate and a Swiss Army knife, not unlike Draymond Green does for Golden State. Once you take the burdens off of players like Tyler Hero and even Jimmy Butler, and you allowed them to play the game that they're best suited to play, sky's the limit.
So, as you mentioned, training camp is, I think, next Tuesday. So I think we're less than a week away from this opening up. Who are you excited to see most, Ricky? Because obviously for me, I get excited about the newer blood. Mm-hmm. We saw a little bit of Max Strus last year, but I'm excited to see if he can take the next step. I am a huge fan of Omer Yurtseven after his incredible summer league exploits. Exactly. So do you agree with me? And who are you excited to see that maybe we didn't see a whole lot of last year?
I will say this. We are in a situation right now where you have Bam Adebayo, who is entering, I believe, his 5th season in the NBA. Right. This is a guy who's been to the NBA Finals, who's grown significantly, who took the starting spot away from Hassan Whiteside when he got traded away. I want to see if he is able to learn from his shortcomings last season and grow into that all-star power forward that he's meant to be in this league. I think he can. Of course, I'll have to see it to believe it. I'm looking forward to seeing how Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler mesh with all the other guys. I continue to say buy the KZ dip. KZ Okpala's career is not over. I still believe in KZ Okpala. I was on his bandwagon from the start, and I'm not jumping off anytime soon unless he retires or really proves himself to be a quote-unquote bust, as one can be as a second-round pick. But, I think ultimately I just want to see what this team can do next season, because I've said this before, if Victor Oladipo can come back relatively healthy, then this team has not only a puncher's chance, but a real shot at making throwing a haymaker at not just the Eastern Conference contenders, but possibly winning a title if everything comes together. Crazier things have happened in this NBA, and I don't think anybody outside of Detroit thought that the Pistons were going to win the championship in 2004.
Fair. I did.
This could be the season where something like that can happen. But as I've said before, I really want to see Carmelo Anthony and Russell Westbrook win a title in LA. But that's a whole nother conversation altogether.
By the way, you mentioned buying the KZ dip. I know you're a crypto fan, as I am as well. Have you been buying the actual dip? Because honestly, when like the big dip happened in May, like every extra cent I had under the sofa, I spent like around May and June. Like I've got like pennies to buy this dip. So it's like I went all in on the previous dip, but it's like I got nothing left, bro.
In order to buy the dip, one must have money. And yeah. You see, look, I'm a broke PhD student right now. There's not that much flowing in at the moment. But I've had my eye on a few things, to tell coin to the moon, as they like to say. But other than that, look, When the opportunity presents itself, I try to, but at this point, it's just the market is volatile. We have no idea what's going to happen, and of course, disclaimer: this is not financial advice. Please don't blah, 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 all that other stuff. But yeah, at this point, I don't even know. We'll see. Hopefully, something great happens, and then we'll be doing this show from my yacht. We'll see.
Well said, man. And when you get that PhD and then you can really start buying the dip, do not forget about the little people. Do not forget to at least invite Sean Stanley and I on the yacht, and Manny Chang as well.
So, you know what? I see. It's funny that picture came up because apparently I've been accused of associating that particular piece of equipment with a certain other Chicago Bulls-based writer in this network. I'm not going to say any names, but that particular writer happens to have a podcast with this network that just dropped yesterday, I believe. I'm not saying you should call this Bulls writer tinfoil in alliteration with that person's last name, but all I'm saying is you might have to take that up with that person because I think that person's copyrighted that look. I'm just saying. Man,
I know. There's pending litigation right now. I appreciate you being very diplomatic. I have been served papers, and I think I have a court appearance coming up soon.
Yep.
I was happy you brought that to my attention when you did. I think it was around last week. Unfortunately, it was like too late. So I don't know. I may need you as like a star witness, just so at least you can vouch for my ignorance, because I did not mean to infringe any copyright.
Right. I mean, some people are very possessive about their personas and the nicknames that they deep down inside really love and enjoy. But I'm sure next Monday you'll be able to let bygones be bygones and sort that whole situation out. Maybe you guys can do a collaboration podcast together.
Maybe so.
Or something. Anything is possible.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the insight you bring as always. Make sure you follow him. For those watching, you can see his handle. For those listening, you cannot. Ricky J. Mark. It's that easy. Mark spelled M-A-R-C. Ricky J. Mark. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Oh, one last thing. I actually have something to plug this week, because I know you ask me every week, and I usually have to improvise.
That's why I stopped asking you. So
you see, one this week. So I'm prepared this week. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. All right, if you go to rickyjmark.com, apparently I have my own website. My ego has no limits. If you go to rickyjmark.com/vote, you can get all the information you need in order to register yourself to vote. Look, I'm not telling you who to vote for. All I'm saying is it is very important to be civically engaged. And that portal that I've created, I've had up and running since 2018, will give you everything you need in order to get registered to vote. No questions asked, not partisan. It's just a way to get you basically empowered to enact some positive change in your community. Not only that, if you go to the website, you will see Ricky's resources. There are a whole bunch of things going on. For example, hurricane preparedness, crisis management, and even mental health. Because with everything happening right now, we're not always feeling great, and don't feel like you're too big or you're too manly or whatever to seek help. There are options for you to do that. Just go to rickyjmark.com/vote to register to vote. And if you check the drop down box, you'll see my resource list. Take advantage of what's there. It's all there for you, free of charge. I'm not charging any of that stuff. Take advantage. Let's just be better people at the end of the day. Sports is an escape, but look, when the game ends, we still have to be human beings, and let's be better human beings moving forward.
That's wonderful, man. Thank you so much for providing that, and I'm going to check that out as well. And
Sure.
I co-sign on everything you said on therapy, and I'm going to get to that in a second after I let you go, and also on registering to vote, because it's so important. And there are people in other countries who don't have the same rights that we have. And when they hear about some people like, oh, did you vote in that American election? Oh, and I never got registered, I didn't vote. They would think, are you kidding me? Like, you actually have the right to enact change and have your opinions heard.
And to get involved.
Yes. It's very important. It's really important, man. Thank you so much, Ricky. We'll talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, man.
That is awesome. And also, like, he said something very important about mental health and, about, not feeling like you're too manly to see a therapist. Like I've seen a therapist before, and I can remember, there's a lot of stigma behind it. And I can remember, before I went, one of the, and Sean, pop yourself back on the screen here, because this is going to sound ridiculous, but this is something as an Italian American, I identified with this. Because before I saw, a therapist a few years ago, I was like, do I really want to be that? Is some head shrinker? Is this really going to help me? And then I can remember thinking, you know what? If Tony Soprano can see a therapist, so can I. So it's like, it may sound funny, but that was actually part of my thought process, and it helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people deal with that. I think that's the older generation, right? Because
For sure.
we were always told, you handle your problems, you don't go see anybody, you don't go lay on, you don't talk to people, So I think that's more of an older mentality. But I'm the same way. I honestly don't go to the doctor unless it's my checkup or things like that, unless I'm very, very seriously hurt. That's the only time I go to the doctor. I still have that stigma.
Yeah, I get, and that's a big one. That's a big one. And sometimes I go to like a yearly checkup for a physical, and then like sometimes I'll just like forget to tell the doctor everything that I have going on, and then I'll feel silly telling him about some of the like ridiculous things that are on my mind. You don't have to feel silly, man. Just these are medical professionals, and I love how Marco points out it didn't end well for Tony Soprano, bro.
That's true.
Oh, wait, listen.
Coming out. There's a new one coming out, right?
Yeah, it's a prequel. It's a prequel movie called I think it's called The Many Saints of Newark. It looks really good. I mean, just based on the trailers, it looks good. And David Chase, who produced and was the showrunner for the Sopranos show, is behind the movie. So I'm guessing it's going to be really good. And an interesting thing about it is, as everyone knows, unfortunately, the actor who played Tony Soprano passed away a while back. Oh, and it's coming out October 1st, Marco says. The actor who played Tony Soprano passed away, but his son is actually playing a younger version of him in the prequel movie. So I thought that's pretty neat. I hope the kid can act, right? Because, hey, you got the perfect guy to play his dad's character, but can he act? We'll find that out.
Yeah, but you don't have to act in those movies, right? You just have to be able to talk and be in the gangster movies. It's not really acting, right?
No, I would say otherwise, man. I would say there was a lot. I'm guessing you didn't watch The Sopranos. Is why you're saying
I did
that.
not watch it.
See, I knew it. I knew it, because if you'd watched the show, you would know. Like there is a lot of depth to his character and to the main characters that were on that show. You're probably thinking of something like Scarface, right? Because all Al Pacino had to do in Scarface was find like a really thick, fake Cuban accent to just kind of talk like that for the entire, like, I don't know, that wasn't, exactly. But no, I would say
trigger. That's it.
Yeah, I would say that in The Sopranos, there's more acting required to that. Something.
I got HBO Max. I'll go watch it.
Oh, you have to watch it now. You're gonna end up binging it so hard. Like I remember the first run through that I did on The Sopranos, and this was back, before streaming services. Like the show was on from I think 1999 to 2007. So it was around, I want to say 2005 was when I started getting into it. And I what I had to do back then was I had to go buy all the DVDs, and it was so expensive. Dude, a season of Sopranos DVDs was anywhere between $55 to $100 to buy a season. Dude, I was a college student at the time, so any change I had laying around, I ended up buying all the seasons of The Sopranos. I started, I think the show was 2 years away from ending when I started, but I binged the DVDs of the first 5 seasons or so. And bro, it helped that I was a college student and I didn't have a job and all my classes were noon or later. But dude, there were some nights I would get on these Sopranos binges, and I would just keep watching. And there was probably, I don't know, 3 episodes on a disc, and I just keep changing the disc. And I would start watching at 8:30 p.m., after dinner, and I'd be up till 4 a.m. just binging. It was crazy. That show will hook you. I'm telling you.
All right. Yeah. Well, people are on me, so I got some homework apparently to do.
And I'm guessing you haven't watched The Wire either, because I see I see Marco puts this out. He says, "Blasphemy! Stop what you're doing and watch 1, The Sopranos, 2, The Wire, rinse and repeat." The Wire is an awesome show. I don't think The Wire. The Wire might be a better show because it's so ultra realistic and really well acted. I don't know if it's as bingeable. Maybe there's not as many cliffhangers. I think I've watched The Wire all the way through twice. I've watched The Sopranos all the way through probably 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
But like the Wire is incredible as well. You got to watch that. And just a few weeks ago, Michael K. Williams, who played Omar in The Wire, passed away. So you want to honor his memory because he's an unbelievable actor who died way too young. Honor his memory by watching the show.
All right, and apparently Stargate's been thrown on there too as well now. So.
Yeah, I saw the movie that came out of the 90s. I've never watched the show Stargate, like all those. Aren't there like a bunch of spinoffs? I'd probably like it because I love science fiction. So this is probably something I would dig.
Back in the day, that was the video game movie?
No, I don't think so. Was it a video game first? I don't think so.
I feel like there was a Stargate that was a video game and like they became real. Like it was a video game to start with and it became real. Oh, I think
you're thinking of Jumanji, probably. Or no, that was a board game.
Man, it wasn't Jumanji.
Oh no, you're thinking of Tron.
No, not Tron. That's recent. I'm talking about this is back again. I forget I'm older than you. So
The Wizard.
No.
I don't know what you're thinking about.
Right now, I'll be back.
He's gonna come back in a second. Oh my god. By the way, I feel bad if I pulled a bait and switch for some people who popped in to watch earlier in the episode because I write scheduled tweets before the show, and they're usually pretty spot on with what I'm going to be talking about at the very time you click. But I wrote a scheduled tweet for around 12:35 that I was going to talk about Aaron Rodgers being all sensitive about the media. I hadn't gotten to it, so I'll give you a quick thought on it. And Aaron Rodgers, he does a weekly spot with Sean's bro, Pat McAfee of pro wrestling fame / NFL fame, and a really good show he does. But Aaron does a weekly spot on that. And he used his weekly appearance this week on the Pat McAfee show to really bitch and moan about the way the quote unquote media covered him after the week 1 blowout loss. You know, they rebounded against the Lions, a bad Lions team, but the week 1 blowout loss to the Saints, people were talking about how, Rodgers made the whole offseason about himself, how poor his body language was, how poor he played. And you know what? I think all of that looked pretty spot on. I mean, he looked very apathetic. He played terribly, and he did make the entire offseason about himself, but he's complaining, like he used the word horse shit several times about the people complaining about him and basically painting, there's this huge problem with the media. I think the ironic thing about it is a couple of Rodgers' most vocal critics after that week 1 performance were a former Super Bowl winning head coach and a former high-level NFL player, because 2 of his loudest critics were Bill Cowher and Nate Burleson. So, okay, I can understand if Rodgers thinks some dweeb sitting behind a desk at a newspaper or some sports blogger living in their mom's basement doesn't have the right to criticize him. A lot of athletes feel that way, but it's like, okay, it doesn't stop the fact that there's a need for content. People have jobs to do. So you get upset when fans and bloggers and media members criticize you. Okay, if they didn't play the game, fine, complain. But 2 of his most vocal critics were Bill Cowher and Nate Burleson. So if they saw the same things that we saw, like if they saw how poorly you played and how poorly you acted in that game after the entire offseason circus, and I'm not completely blaming him for that because the Green Bay Packers have their share of blame as well, believe me. But, this is one of those things where I think Rodgers needs to stop reading so many of his press clippings. Like, do what certain players do and try to put the blinders on during the season. Maybe it doesn't negatively affect his game, but it'll drive you crazy. Like, it will drive you crazy if you're reading every negative thing that's written about you. I know Baker Mayfield does that as well. Apparently Rodgers does that. It's like, if you want to make them shut up, okay, keep playing the way you played against Detroit. 2 games in the books. Give us 15 more of those plus playoffs. And yeah, they're going to stop writing negative shit about you, but you have to prove it on the field. If you have more games, Sean, like he had against the Saints, you're going to have more of that crap written about you.
Well, especially too, the way he looks on the sidelines, like you were talking about, he's just kind of standing there with like, oh, well, next game. I mean, I guess it's just the attitude. And then you said, the whole time the offseason was about himself. If you went to his Instagram or saw anything coming out of, he was on vacation. It wasn't playing football. It wasn't throwing footballs. That was during camp. They showed some of them, hitting the nets and things like that. Everything else, he was on vacation this year, coming off that MVP season. And then you go out there and you lay an egg in the first week of the season. It's going to happen. That's what the society is. It's right now. It's not looking back and going, oh, okay, he had one bad game. It's like, oh, because he was out all off season vacationing and all this stuff. Now it's going to affect his play, which, you saw him come back and bounce back last game. So we'll see how it goes from here. But it's funny to me too, because now Rodgers has that platform and he's really used it very well.
He is.
Even last year during the MVP, because you have McAfee and is it AJ Hawk? I think it's AJ Hawk.
AJ Hawk, who's a former teammate of Rodgers.
Yeah. And they throw easy softballs up, but at the same time throwing jabs at the Packers last year. Throwing, and then Rodgers able to hit it out of the park without really saying a lot, but you know what he's aiming at. And it's become a pretty good platform for him.
Did you figure out what the video game movie was?
No, it wasn't the movie. I found Stargate. It was 1994. This was not the video game movie I thought of. I got to go back and try to figure out.
But I was hoping you would figure out what the video game movie was, because I could have told you it wasn't Stargate. You didn't need Google for that. I told you Stargate wasn't the video game movie.
Hold on, man. Again.
Hold on. I want to see who can Google this faster. I'm going to try. I don't know when. Sean is like 70 years old. Low key, so this could have come out in like the 60s. I don't know. Did they have video games back then? I don't think so. Let's see. Video game movie. When do you think this was, Sean? The 80s? Video game movie. I'm gonna go with 1980s. Let's see. Video game. See, I was thinking The Wizard, but he said it wasn't that. Was it The Last Starfighter? Oh no, was it I know what it was. War Games. Was it War Games? You got to put yourself back in the frame, bro.
Yeah, I think it might have been Last Starfighter. I was looking at
Last Starfighter. Oh, okay.
It might have been Last Starfighter, because that was actually like the premise was he was good at the video game, and then it ended up being like Independence Day, and he saves the world because he was so good at the game. He was able to fight off the alien invasion.
Oh, see, I was kind of hoping it was. Have you ever seen the movie War Games? I think that might have come out in the 70s, but it was a kid like playing a computer game that was all about like you're having like the nukes, like the arms race between like the US and the Soviet Union. And then like he realized what he was playing on the video game was like actually happening, and it was like nuclear war is going to happen.
There was a lot of good movies. Cloak and Dagger. That was a pretty good one too.
I never saw that.
No. So good. I know I haven't seen The Sopranos, but man, you're upsetting me.
Oh no, I'm upset. You haven't seen like any good TV show, and now I'm upsetting you that I haven't seen Cloak and Dagger. Oh man, I think we might be pretty much done for the day. But before we are done for the day, I want to remind you guys, if you're looking to place some wagers all throughout football season, and hell, dude, the NBA is going to be here before we know it. The Heat start training camp early next week, preseason games early October. Late October is when the NBA season starts. There are going to be so many opportunities to have fun, to make some money, to win some bets, hit some parlays at BetUS.com. They are the official sports book of Donno Daily. They are the 3-decade leader. They are known as America's favorite sports book. Not only do they have odds on anything you can imagine, which I love, because I have bet on pop culture props before. I bet presidential debate props last year. I have bet on college lacrosse. You can find anything you can imagine. You can find odds on it at BetUS.com. It is a beautiful thing. Bet with the 3-decade leader, BetUS, and you can join. We have a hookup for you here on this show. You can join with our promo code and get a 125% sign-up bonus or 200% with crypto. So use our code when you check out. And also the code, it gives us credit. So they know, hey, these guys are coming from Donno Daily on 5 Reasons Sports. So we would appreciate that if you use our code and get a sweet bonus in the process. 5RSN125. That's 5RSN125 for that sweet sign-up bonus. And you can bet sports, casino. I've played blackjack in there. And something I haven't seen this on a lot of the other sites that I've used previously. You can play blackjack in their casino, and you can do practice games for no money, which is kind of neat. Like if you're like, oh, I haven't played much blackjack, I don't know what this is about. You can do practice games in there. And when you bet with real money, you can actually bet for as little as $1. So if you just feel like, hey, like maybe I want to make a few bucks here, not risk a whole lot, you can play for a minimum of $1 in blackjack, which is kind of cool because you go to a lot of tables like in live casinos, and depending on what day you show up, maybe the lowest limit is like $15 minimum, $10 minimum. You can bet as little as $1 on blackjack at BetUS.com, which I find to be fun. Or if you're a high roller, you can bet more than that if you want to, of course. So you can bet horses, pop culture as well, and more. BETUS.com, BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS. So apparently War Games came out in 1983. I think that's what Rafa in Miami is saying. And guys, if you're looking for a spot to watch college football this Saturday, the NFL this Sunday, UFC 266 this Saturday night, look no further than the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Not only do they have all the football games on their high-def flat-screen TVs covering every wall, they have all the UFC pay-per-views for zero cover charge. You pay nothing at the door while you enjoy the delicious seafood. Oh, God, I love the buffalo shrimp. I love the fresh sushi at the Quarterdeck. The French dip sandwich is incredible. The burgers are off the charts, my friends. The key lime cheesecake is an amazing dessert. They have 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. It's always happy hour at the Quarterdeck with 2-for-1 drinks. And Saturdays and Sundays during football season, you can get the 5 for $15 ice cold buckets of beer. If you want to find the location nearest to you or just peep the menu before you go, visit them on the World Wide Web at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And David points out he always loves it when the show goes nuts. Yeah, we tend to, like, once we creep into overtime, we tend to get a little crazy. So, yeah, sometimes we take our eye off the ball a little bit. Huge thanks to Rafa in Miami, to David, to Marco, MB Beggs. I see our guy, Dan the Pitbull Weiss, hopped in. He says the Sopranos is great. James Gandolfini's son looks like the father. That's what, I mean, the perfect casting. You have, the son to play his dad's character. He couldn't have done better than that. I just hope the kid can act. Ryan Sproviero sounds like a paisan. Welcome into you. Who's been in the chat today? Let me see who else. Oh, G.A. Canes fan, who we love. Levon, Florida. Levon, FLA. Good dude. Ernest Ulabarro is one of our chronics as well. We appreciate you popping in. Julio Infante Ramos. We appreciate you, sir. Johnny Be Good. Eduardo Landeros. 5 Reasons Heat. And this is the part where I get tired of scrolling up. So thanks to everybody who tuned in today. Thanks to Sean Stanley behind the scenes. I don't know if Manny Chang was behind the scenes today or not. Wednesday is his day in the woods. So he's is it more survival training, Sean? So this is what Manny does on Wednesdays. He puts raw meat in his pockets and he walks through the woods and he's like dodging Florida panthers, which are very rare, but when they smell the raw meat in your pocket, they show up. He's dodging bears out in the Everglades. So it's a wild thing he has going on.
It is, and he wears those shoes out in the woods. I don't understand it, but I guess that keeps the animals from attacking because they're so damn ugly.
Oh, true. And by the way, I appreciate that Ryan Sproviero likes my pronunciation of his name. I try, bro. I bet people butcher that one all the time. I feel bad for you, but thank you for popping in. So that'll do it for us. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow. We got a busy one tomorrow. Thursdays is when we welcome in Ethan Skolnick on Thursdays. We're going to be welcoming Barry Barger for some betting picks from BetUS.com. And then I feel like there's one more that we use. Hussam Patel comes in on Thursdays as well. So tomorrow is going to be jam-packed, my friends. We will talk to you at 1 o'clock right here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.